أهلا وسهلا فيكم من جديد، ومننتقل إلى الندوة الثالثة تحت عنوان تأثير الألعاب الإلكترونية على المراهقين Online Gaming and its Effects on Teenagers. مدعي إلى المنصة كام أدر، دكتور نظير حاوي، دكتور جوردن شابيرو. أيضا وبدير هالجلسة دكتور مايا سميحة، أستاذة محاضرة بجامعة LNDU. خليني بس اذكركم بتويتس اللي لازم تعملونا على تويتر، الاكونت اللي شايفينه قدامكم هيدا الهاشتاج، وافضل تويت بالاخر رح بيكون فيه كمان جوائز مقدمين من المؤسسه. خلينا نقول اكثر من ذلك ايضا، وعود واذكر باهم داعم لهذا المؤتمر والداعم المستمر للمؤتمرات اللي بتقوم فيهم مؤسسه مايشيديا، فريدريتش ايبرت. الدعم المستمر، شكرا للرعاة وشكرا للداعمين. خلينا بس كرمال الوقت من هلا هيدي البانل من هلا للساعه 3 على القد، تنقدر ما يكون عندنا تاخير على انتهاء المؤتمر. فمن هلا للساعه 3 بترككم مع دكتور مايا، وبنرجع من بعدها بنستأنف اخر بانل وتوصيات والختام. شكرا، تفضلي ليلي.
هلا لك. I am honored to be moderating the panel about this extremely relevant topic. Thank you, Dr. Maishidia. You are, as always, a role model for all of us. Today, online gaming is almost dominating the world, especially our children's minds. The global gaming industry has surpassed $100 billion in 2018. with an estimated 2.5 billion active video gamers. Although online gaming is great entertainment, gaming addiction is on its way to become officially recognized as a mental disorder by the WHO, by the World Health Organization and the American Association of Psychiatrists. Asking the younger audience today with us, how many of you play PUBG, Call of Duty, Overwatch? But we have more parents. Asking the parents, how many of you have children or grandchildren right now at home playing Fortnite on this Saturday? Oh, so especially it's no homework now. We will tackle the benefit and risk of online gaming and its impacts on our children's minds with our esteemed panelists who are pioneers in this field. Please join me in welcoming first Dr. Jordan Shapiro, globally celebrated public intellectual. He's currently a senior fellow at Sesame Workshop, non-resident fellow at Brookings Institution, and he teaches at the University of Temple. Next, Mr. Cam Adair is founder. He's an internationally recognized speaker, entrepreneur, and YouTuber. He's the founder of Game Quitter, the world's largest support community for video game addiction, serving members in 92 countries. Our final panelist, Dr. Nazir Hawi, Associate Professor at NDU. Most of his research, he has over 20 publications in the last couple of years just about internet addiction, smartphone addiction, video game addiction, published in the most prestigious international journals. He also founded the founder and president of LARA, an NGO dedicated to awareness and rehabilitation from technology addiction. Please allow me to start with a video prepared for NDU INTA initiative, an initiative about internet addiction. This will be an introduction of the subject.
بحزيران 2018 منظمة الصحة العالمية صنفت الإدمان على الفيديو جيم حالة مرضية نفسية.
حياتي الاجتماعية جيمنج، علاقاتي جيمنج، ما بعرف شيء خارج الجيمنج أنا. بيتروق هو عم يحضر تلفزيون قبل ما يجي الاوتوكار ياخده، وبس يرجع دغري بيوصل وبيدور التلفزيون.
ايباد، PS4، موفيز على نتفليكس، تليفون. طالما هن قاعدين بالبيت، طالما بيستعملوا التكنولوجيا.
الانتليجنسيا ستراتا بلبنان رايحة على الإضمحلال. خطورة هذا الموضوع على المجتمع لقدام كتير كبيرة، وهيدا شيء بده معالجة فورية. سنة 2008 حبيت أعمل بحث علمي بخصوص وسائل التكنولوجيا الحديثة وتأثيرها على الأولاد. طلبت إذن من وزارة التربية يسمحوا للبحث يفوت على المدارس الرسمية والخاصة.
من 7 سنين أخذت قرار إني أرجع مع عائلتي على لبنان. تفاجأت بالتغيير القوي يلي صار بمجتمعنا. مثلا كانت الفرحة الكبيرة، يروحوا الأولاد عند تيتا وجدو، اليوم بتقولوا للولد بدنا نروح في واي فاي، لا بتجر هونيك شو بدي أعمل. يوم أولاد تحت 3 سنين ما بقى يعرفوا ياكلوا إذا ما عم يحضروا يوتيوب. فوت على الصف قبل ما تبلش الحصة بلاقي كلها تلاميذ حاطين راسهم بالسيلولار، ما حدا عم يحكي مع التاني. لكل هالأسباب حسيت إنه لازم بلش حول أبحاثي لتصير عن هذا الموضوع.
سنة 2012 قدرت انشر أول بحث علمي بلبنان والعالم العربي. شفت حجم المشكلة بلبنان، وهون كان اللقاء مع الدكتورة مايا سماح روبرت اللي أظهرت اهتمامها بالموضوع.
بسنة 2013 بلشنا أول دراسة فتنا فيها على 13,000 بيت بجميع المناطق اللبنانية للفئة العمرية بين 7 و11 سنة، وتبيننا 91% من الأولاد عم بيقضوا أكثر من الوقت موصى عليه من المؤسسات العالمية يلي هو أكثر من 2 ساعة.
إذا أنا فليت هن قاعدين على التكنولوجيا، يعني ما عندهم غير تسلية بيتسلوا فيها عن جد مزبوط هن لوحدهم.
40% من الأهل عم يستعملوا الشاشة كحضانة للأطفال.
أنا بالنسبة لإلي اتس تول تتهين لي حياتي.
التكنولوجيا والسمارت فون والفيديو جيم صار المحور الأساسي بتربية الأهل للأولاد. هيدي الظاهرة عطيناها مصطلح اسمه e-discipline، واليوم بالعالم عم يستعملوا لهذا المصطلح.
إذا الواحد بيتركهم على راحتهم أكيد بيجيبوا معهم الآيباد وأكيد بياكلوا بالقوة. ممنوع التكنولوجيا على الطاولة، اضطرينا نعملها قانون.
اكتشفنا مبدأ الطفل المدمن، هيدا شيء ما كنا عم نسمع فيه بمجتمعنا. اكتشفنا مبدأ تاني اسمه الأم فاكتور، من خلاله شفنا إنه احتمال تفوق الأولاد بالمدارس والجامعات صار عم يضمحل. يعني احتمال إنه ذكر بيستعمل التكنولوجيا هو عم بيدرس، بنسميها مالتي تاسكينج، يتفوق على الآخرين من نفس الفئة العمرية بتقل 19 مرة، حظوظه بتقل 19 مرة. أما بفئة الإناث بتقل حظوظهم 8 مرات.
قررنا نكفي على عدة فئات عمرية. بينا 82% من الصبيان المراهقين أعمارهم بين 13 و 17 سنة عم يستعملوا هول الألعاب يلي هي مفروض تكون لفوق 18 سنة. 92% عم بفوتوا على مواقع مش مسموح يفوتوا فيها. المراهقين اليوم عم بيقضوا 4 ساعات ل 14 ساعة بالنهار على فيديو جيمز.
في أولاد تبين معنا عم بيفيقوا بالليل ليكملوا لعب ليحافظوا على المستويات اللي وصلوا لها خلال النهار.
هيدا على حساب صحتهم النفسية والعقلية والجسدية.
إذا ظهرت من البيت ثاقبت أو شيء بيتخربط هيدا وقت النوم، لأنه الأولاد عم تلعب على الجو إلكترونيك وما بتحترم وقت النوم، بضل بدهم أكثر وأكثر وأكثر.
كل ما زاد الإدمان على سمارت فون عم تتضاعف 5 مرات مستويات القلق عند الأولاد، وكمان عم بيتضاعف التشنج بالعلاقات الأسرية 13 مرة. ندعي ناس لتستعمل التكنولوجيا بشكل متوازن ومنتج.
اليوم نحن كأهل دورنا صار أكبر بكتير وأصعب بكتير من الدور اللي قاموا فيه أهلنا معنا، لأنه اليوم نحن بدنا نحارب عمالقة التكنولوجيا.
ما تحولوا بيتكم لأوتيل، ولا تتحولوا أنتوا لمانجرز بهالأوتيل، ولا تخلوا أولادكم ضيوف حاجزين غرفة أبدية بهالأوتيل. نتمنى عليكم أنه تحافظوا على القيم والمبادئ الأساسية لحتى تبقى عندكم عيالكم مترابطة متواصلة بهالزمن الرقمي اللي نحن عايشين فيه.
لو انه الواحد ما بيتقبلها وبده ينكرها، بس انا اكيده انه الحياه بالعائله منا مثل ما هي مفروض تكون، يعني كل واحد وحده بالعالم تبعوله.
ما ممكن ياكلوا الا اذا حطيتهم على اليوتيوب. بزعل شوي انه ما بنقعد بناكل بالمطبخ كلنا سوا هيك مثل ما كنا بالزمانات وقت كنت انا صغيره، وهيدي يعني one of my best memories.
بشوف حدا، بشوف اهلي انه بيفكروا عم بلعب قمار بعتقد او عم بتعاطوا. انا بلشت العب فيديو جيمز كان عمري صوب 6-7 سنين. احلى شيء عملته بحياتي على الجيمنج، كل مصروف على الجيمنج. انا حياتي الاجتماعيه جيمنج، علاقاتي جيمنج، ما بعرف شيء خارج الجيمنج. انا اصحاب عندي من ورا الجيمنج للصراحه فينا نلعب سوا. انا بروجرامي من الصبح للصراحه بجرب ما في نام للساعه 11 لانه الجيمنج لاونجز بلبنان بيفتحوا الساعه 12. من الساعه 12 للساعه 6 وجه الضوء بكون بالجيمنج لاونج، والساعه 6 برجع على البيت بدور البي اس وبلعب لحديت ما اخفى. انا صرت ب5 سنين بالجامعه، ناجح كورس واحد بال5 سنين، عايد 15 كورس. كثير صعبه غير حياتي، ما في كثير بحبها، كثير بحبها من قلبي. ما في غير، ما في يتغير. لا ما في يتغير. لا ولا لا.
ما بعرف قد ايه من الجمهور الكريم في ناس عايشين مش لهالدرجه، بس عايشين هيدي الحاله ببيوتهم مع اولادهم ولادهم. I'll switch to English. I just ask if anyone here or how many do identify with what was in this video. Cam, please let me start with you. Would you share with us your personal struggle with addiction, with gaming addiction?
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm so honored to be here. It's my first time in Lebanon, so thank you for having me. My work in this area began through my own personal journey. So I was addicted to playing video games for about 10 years. That caused me to drop out of high school, never graduate, and while all my friends were off to college, I was gaming up to 16 hours a day. I was very depressed, I was very anxious, and of course my parents said, if you don't go to school, then you have to get a job. And so I started to pretend to have jobs and deceive my family. And as much as gaming allowed me to escape, it didn't actually fix anything. And so I got to a point where I wrote a suicide note, and that was the night where I realized I needed to make a change. And that change for me began by quitting gaming. Eventually, I ended up relapsing after 2 years. And it was during that relapse where I went from not gaming for 2 years to gaming 16 hours a day for 5 months straight that I stepped back and really thought, what is it about these games that I'm so drawn to? Why am I playing them so much? And how do I go from not gaming for 2 years to gaming 16 hours a day, literally overnight? And I just realized that I was gaming for specific reasons to fulfill different emotional needs I had, and that really helped me be able to move forward. And today, the community I run helps about 50,000 people a month in 94 countries around the world who are all coming forward themselves saying, I too struggle with gaming and I want help and I want to move forward. And it's just been really profound for me to see all these young people coming forward asking for help. And just for this conversation, I think it's really important that we understand that for some people, they play and they may struggle like myself. And for others, the vast majority of people who play, they're completely fine. And I'm just a big believer in if people are coming forward and they need help, then we should respond by saying, how can we help? And for everyone else, we should allow them to game in peace.
Nazir, please, would you tell us what are the signs that parents should be looking for, watch for signs of gaming addiction?
Okay, first, please allow me to thank Her Excellency Dr. May Shidia for giving us this opportunity to disseminate knowledge to everyone regarding online gaming, and thank you. Actually, there are several symptoms that parents can identify with their children had they been considered addicts to online gaming. The first one is being occupied the whole time with gaming before the gaming session and after the gaming session. So the whole time the gaming issue is occupying their mind. This is one of them. And the other one is that with time they start building tolerance in order to gain the same quantity, if you want, of excitement. So half an hour at the beginning is enough, then it won't be enough for long, and now they need another half an hour in addition to the other one. So with time, they build tolerance to play, and we were able, actually, in our study, to determine that addicts to online gaming were playing double or triple the number of hours of those who are considered casual gamers. So there are actually several symptoms that parents can rely on. One of them is to lie about their gaming. Had it been something correct, why should children lie about it? So usually they lie about when they are gaming, about which games they are playing, and for how long they are gaming. So in this case, parents mainly should look for physical, psychological health issues, and to social functioning, something wrong with the social functioning of the child. Could this be related to online gaming? Then here parents should intervene.
Well, Jordan, I would like to hear your thoughts about what is the play, as you are an advocate of learning through gameplay.
Yeah, well, first, I also want to thank you for the invitation and thank all of you for being so welcoming. On that, we all agree. And when I watch this video, I can feel so deeply the struggle that so many people are going through, and there are certainly a ton of people. And I hear these stories everywhere I go around the world. And there are a ton of people who have very unhealthy relationships with video games. A ton of people have very unhealthy relationships with digital devices in general, grown-ups, kids, teenagers, everything. But I, from my perspective, I tend to want to separate that from whether or not that's because of the games or not, right? We have very unhealthy relationships with many things. I know people have unhealthy relationships with food. I know people have unhealthy relationships with sex and with love and with religion and with money and with work. Unhealthy relationships people tend to do, and we really need to work as a society to figure out how do we manage those unhealthy relationships, but also how do we raise our children in such a way that they don't develop those unhealthy relationships to begin with. And so what really excites me is that I think there's an enormous potential in games, right? All morning I've been listening to all the fantastic panels, and we talked about how the way the world is connected is changing the world order. We talked about digital economy. We did all this stuff that's all about the new kinds of connections and technologies that are shaping our world. And here we have this thing that's shaping our kids' worlds. We really need to think about it and not just think of it as good or bad. Now, what we know in child development is that the best way to learn almost all of the social skills, all of the emotional skills, all of the executive function, all of the self-regulation skills, so many of the things that we now know are what create academic success, professional success. Those things are best developed through play, right? So when you think about little kids, very little kids playing just a normal game of ball, for example, there are certain rules. They learn how to interact. They learn how to follow those rules. They learn how to interact with each other. Sometimes they get in fights. If you and I get in a fight playing ball, I learned very quickly how to mediate that fight as a little kid, and that's very important for social interaction. So I think the first big benefit of gaming, if we can figure out how to get it healthily integrated into our kids' lives, is that they'll learn how to socialize in a digital connected world way better than most of us adults are doing. I mean, we're not very good at it as adults yet, right? So I would hope that kids grow up to be better with their devices than I am, right? But that means they're gonna have to do that through play, and they're certainly gonna have to do it through parents telling them, dinner time is not the time to watch YouTube, right? They have to learn that. It's not. If I were sitting here looking at YouTube right now while we were talking, you'd all think I was crazy, right? So we need to teach that to our kids very, very young in order to get rid of the kinds of unhealthy relationships that both of these speakers are talking about.
Yeah, but with Fortnite and PUBG, could it be any learning through gaming? This is what our sons are playing, you know? Cam, you have something?
I think there's a distinct difference now between what games have been and what games are today. And you know, for some people in here, you may be familiar with games like Pong and Tetris and the classics. You know, I'm 30, and the games I played growing up were Counter-Strike and World of Warcraft, and those games, even before that, you know, they had a very clear start and end. And now games are very different. The gambling and gaming industries are intersecting very quickly. Revenue models for games have completely changed in the last 10 to 15 years, where now there's a lot of initiatives to see how can we get people to spend as much money within games as possible. Games are no longer a $50 purchase one time. They're free, and then you're able to buy cosmetic upgrades within the game that a lot of research is now showing is very psychologically akin to gambling. And this is being exposed to kids at a very young age. Even I have a study that just came out last week that showed games designed for preschoolers that are educational games and apps have manipulative advertising in them. And an example of that would be a 6-year-old is playing this game called Dr. Kids. And within the game, it's, you know, the kid is cleaning teeth and becoming a dentist. And then a pop-up comes up and it says, "Hello, 6-year-old, would you like to buy the new game for $1.99 or buy the bundle for $3.99? And you know, of course, on the pop-up, there's an X, a red X that you can press that I think we're all very familiar in here with how impossible that is. But if you manage to press that X, the character on the screen begins to cry. And this is an instance where this 6-year-old is being taught that not spending money within the game is actually shameful and wrong. And that's very different than just playing a game of Tetris or playing a game of Pong. And I think that when we're talking about this conversation, we have to distinguish between, yes, some games are fun and they're play, and that's fantastic. And business models have changed a lot. And there's a lot of gambling-like game design coming into these games to maximize profits. And that's not necessarily healthy for our kids. We know that earlier you're exposed to gambling, the more likely you are to be a problem gambler when you're older. So I think these are some of the alarming trends that we have to pay attention to and understand that games have changed.
Nazir, building on what Cam just said, from a computer scientist perspective, do you think giant technology are building game in a way to be addictive? Are they designing games to be addictive?
Of course, I agree with Cam, because we actually, humanity so far entered 2 phases. The first phase where the creator of a game was interested in selling the game on a CD or another platform, and then that's it. He gets his bucks, and then the buyer leaves, okay? And however, they leave some attractions there so that they come back and purchase the next CD in the sequel. That's it. However, that phase is gone now, and it's being replaced now with, as you mentioned, high-tech, giant tech companies that are trying now to convert the whole industry into business. So it's no more about game design. Yeah, it's not game design for game design. Now the game design has changed to business. Now they are trying to change the design of the online game, especially online gaming, so that the person gets back to playing again and for longer periods, to have enough ample time to maximize their profits. And as Cam said, there will always be there things to sell those kids. And in our study that was published in 2018 recently, we were able to find out that the younger the children, the more addicts to online gaming they are. So here parents should play a major role by postponing as much as possible, making these devices available to them. So yes, I do believe that companies, what they are trying to do is more scary. And by the way, I'm not against playing games. Okay, I'm not against technology. I am a computer science professor at Notre Dame University, and I've been for a very long time. So that is not the point. We're trying to just to shed light on what businesses are trying to do through online gaming, and that is to monetize the weaknesses of those children. So they are seeking the help of psychologists, of behavioral scientists, and attention engineers in order to inject into those games, okay, features that allow them to maximize their profits by selling gadgets and so on.
Okay. Well, Jordan, you talk about the gameplay for learning. Who's designing this? These tech companies, universities, how we're going?
Yeah, I want to answer that, but can I respond to the previous comment first? Is that okay?
Sure.
Yeah. Because I agree. I would say 85%, right? I agree with almost everything you said. That certainly companies are using predatory methods. Yeah, we overlap. Yeah. We're certainly game designers are using predatory methods in order to make a profit. Unfortunately, I think that might be a problem with consumption capitalism, not a problem with video games, right? Like most of us are all involved with things that are trying to capture our attention. All those billboards you see are doing the exact same thing. So the only part I disagree with you, because I think these are problematic and I think they're predatory, where I disagree with you is our job as parents might be to introduce our kids earlier so that we teach them how to better manage a world of commerce that's trying to constantly manipulate you into feeling high status, low status, right? When you describe this picture of crying, I think, well, most of the commercials that my kids, that adults see are saying, if you don't have the right phone, you should feel shame, right? If you don't have the right clothes, you should feel shame. I think that's a tragedy that's how humanity is right now. But we as parents need to teach our kids how to manage that, not go, well, why don't we pretend that's not the world until they're a certain age, and then we'll wonder why they don't know how to do it anymore.
Well,
yeah,
Regarding billboards, TVs, always parents were wary about having their children addicted to watching, let's say, TV. But billboards, TVs, and other media, people there, children there, they are observers. While in the virtual world, those children are citizens. They become citizens of their world, and they fall into the trap of interactivity. Okay, so there is a big difference between looking at a billboard for a second, okay, while, as Cam mentioned earlier, while adding a feature whereby if you do not abide by purchasing this thing, okay, they make you feel ashamed of yourself, okay? So they are playing on the weakness of the child.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time. I want to leave some room for questions, but we know Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, and today we're just reading about the Silicon Valley big tech parents are delaying as much as possible giving technology to their children. Cam, I want to end up wrapping with the one big advice we give to parents. What should we do from each of our panelists? How at Game Quitters, what is it the one advice that will stick in our head to do?
Technology needs to be used from a creation instead of a consumption standpoint. And I think when we're using technology to build apps and to learn computer science and to be really engaged in it, to actually create something for the world, I think that's where technology is used best, instead of just as a way to watch more cat videos on YouTube or to post more selfies on Instagram. I think it's all about how you use the technology and ultimately coming from that creation standpoint. And I do believe, just like Jordan said, that this has a big component of parenting involved. It's not the whole story, but it's an aspect of it. And I believe that we really need to get back to focusing on the family unit. So creating sacred time where there's no technology at the dinner table, and you're going on hikes and getting back in nature as a family. Those are very important components. But rebuilding the family unit is probably one of, if not the biggest things that you can do to make sure that kids are not getting addicted to technology.
So, Jordan, so let's say your one thing is no technology during dinner time or with meal. And what advice you would give to parents? We're looking forward for your new book.
My advice to parents would be play video games with your kids and talk to your kids about what's going on with the video games and have conversations when those pop-ups come to explain how they work and explain that they are predators, right? And make kids understand why you're saying no. Because I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, when my parents said no, I said, how am I going to go do it? Right? So the best thing that if we really want to teach our kids to responsibly interact with technology, we need to get down and dirty and do it with them. Then we can start to avoid some of these things. Then we can teach them to be afraid of exactly the kinds of things that you're both pointing out. But that's about grown-ups taking the responsibility for stopping that. I wish there were a way to stop the games from having predatory things. Hopefully, maybe we will have legislation that makes that possible. But until that happens, then I think parents need to get involved, play with their kids, teach their kids how to think about the games, how to make sense of the games, and how to behave ethically around gaming and responsible around gaming, and to live a fulfilled life while also playing games.
Nazir, you have one advice? Parenting, because obviously our role as parents did grow a lot, like we have to do a lot more for our kids.
Yeah, actually, I do agree here with Jordan that parents should actually educate themselves about online gaming and video games in general. So they need to educate themselves about, they can't avoid it. However, to play with them is a major issue, because I've been observing several fathers playing with their sons video gaming, leaving the job over the mother to become even harder to stop the whole family from playing. So I don't know, I mean, I won't give this anyway. So it's a total, sorry for this. Anyway, this is it. So parents first should educate themselves really about online gaming, video gaming, and they need to set rules at home, okay? Very clear rules, such as, let's say, no more than 2 hours of, let's say, at that certain age. Plus, they need the consistency, so they need to enforce those rules. It's not up to the child to decide what should happen at home or not, okay? If you give the device to your child the whole time, it's as if you have a closet of alcohol at home, allowing the child to drink from that closet of alcohol as much as they want, okay, whatever type of alcohol you have available there and at any time. I mean, the device gives total freedom to the child, and I don't think at this age, especially, we are accustomed now in Lebanon, it's becoming trendy to give the device as a gift to the child at age 7. I don't know if you agree with me or not. So at age 7, the parents, because they love their child, okay, so they give them the device at year 7, at age 7, and this is not appropriate. Here, I agree with Jordan that parents, before they do this, they need to educate themselves, because they are today falling into a transitionary period. They weren't trained to deal with this issue, okay? But now it's the time, because they need to train themselves so that now they train their children. We are living in a different digital age, completely different than the previous one. So we need to put that effort.
Okay, I have to open for questions because we only have 10 minutes left. Any questions from the audience? Okay.
Lots of
questions. Yeah.
عينه اكثر شيء.
لا I'm a psychoeducator, and when we talk about intelligence and how to increase it, we always say that children should learn through their senses and not only visually. Okay? So, to build a perception of the concepts, they should manipulate things and not only play with. Play is supposed to be done through toys first. Even at 7 years, they need toys. And they need also to release their energy. By sitting hours and hours, they are becoming hyperactive, okay? They cannot really connect and they cannot concentrate. So how are we going to build a new generation that really is not somehow interacting with their surrounding socially or even at school, okay?
I would address this question to Jordan. Please, may you answer?
It's a really long answer, but I'll try to do it as quickly as I can. Yes, absolutely. I agree with many of the things that you've said. But I want to point out that we often think about when we say when we talk about both play for learning and learning, play for sake, and even sensory learning, we think about that as something that's very sort of neutral, as if the way we know it the most is the right way. All of those things are actually interactions with tools, right? And this is a kind of tool, and this is a tool they also need to play and get in their senses to learn how to do. No, they should not do it as the only thing they do for 14 hours a day. My rule with my own children has always been, actually, I don't put a limit on how many hours they can play. Instead, I put a requirement on all the other things they must do. Like, you must spend some time outside. You must spend some time talking to friends. You must spend some time reading books. It's kind of impossible to play all day and then also do all the other things you have to. So I do it sort of without making it so negative. But they also need the time to learn how to interact in a connected digital space. All of these things are important, especially as we move into a world. Because again, if you think about all the panels we've heard all day so far, the way we're going to address all of those problems is by raising a generation of kids who are better equipped to behave ethically in a connected world than we are. Because we're not not doing it that well. So how do we prepare kids that are able to do it? That means they need a lot of practice and a lot of mentorship in order to live that ethical life and to present it. Who's going to come up with these legislative solutions? It's going to be the next generation who really understands it well enough. They're not going to understand it if they don't have time to play in it. But yes, I agree, not just play in it, play other ways too. Well, some kids are doing it at school. That's very divided by socioeconomic class. I mean, it's not true that the majority of the world is not using technology at school right now.
They are somehow teaching the students to how to function or how to use them. So what we need more is to teach the child that this item is good for half an hour, 1 hour a day, not more. And the rest of the time he has to socialize, go outside, see people, see friends, and live with his family.
I think you and I are in complete agreement that grown-ups need to decide what we think is the appropriate way to do it and to teach kids how to do it. I don't know if you and I agree on the exact times, but we certainly agree that grown-ups need to be creating a healthy relationship for kids around this.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. أنا حابة I'm just going to speak in Arabic and in English as well because this is a suggestion مقترح من ينطلق من ميشديا conference. It's an initiative to be announced through this great conference is to liaise between the study that you did, which is you as an NDU, and you're saying it's idman. You're saying this is addiction. So this is a very serious word. And to liaise with the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Media and Communication and see how can you educate the gaming, the digital, all this in the schools. Because if we're gonna keep on saying, okay, this is the study that we did, and this is the complaint, the parents cannot do it by themselves, and the kids cannot do it by themselves. There should be somewhere انطلاقة from somewhere to start to kick it off, and for you, since you have initiating this, and to be منبر من هالمؤتمر, to be as مقترح, ينفذ, and to work on it with the Ministry of Education, because this has to be taught in the schools to educate the kids. Because if I'm a mother, I will keep on telling, I'm gonna fight with my son, only 1 hour, 2 hours, and I'm like a police in the house. I am literally a police in the house. So, but we need the coordination from the schools and with the parents. But you need an authority to lead it. You cannot just leave it open like this. Thank you.
We most certainly welcome.
I think one of the biggest opportunities to integrate that is through esports. So esports is organized professional gaming, and currently it's about $1 billion industry. It's more professional people making money doing that, but in Australia and the US right now, by next year, there will be organized leagues across high school and college level. And very soon, within 24 to 36 months, this will be worldwide.
Sorry, may you explain to the audience what are esports?
So it's like playing football, where you have organized teams, high school, through schools or through different organizations, through the college, where people are able to get scholarships to go to college for the sport, which in this case is playing video games. So it's organized, different games have different rules. But one of the biggest opportunities we have is, as this comes in and is integrated into our schools and integrated into our colleges, universities, is to integrate an aspect of prevention work into it. So, I'm really big now on, every esports player having a well-being handbook. And if a school, high school, college has an esports team, there should be a requirement that there is prevention programming done at the beginning of the school year around helping students understand warning signs and understand, how to keep their relationship with technology to be healthy. And I speak at schools all over the world who have iPads integrated into the classroom, and I hear a lot of problems from the staff talking about how challenging that is to navigate. And so if a school has iPads as a huge part of the education system, there should also be the counterbalance of having prevention work done in the school and just helping students become more aware of their use. And what's always left me feeling really optimistic about the work that I do is when students or gamers are educated on why they play and what needs it fulfills and what some of the warning signs are and how to balance out their activities, they always are able to respond in a really powerful way, regardless of whether they have an addiction where it's causing significant impairment or they're playing in a healthy way. But bringing a greater sense of awareness as to why gives them a huge opportunity to leverage that into balancing and keeping a healthy relationship. So I do believe the prevention is huge, but prevention is really boring, and we live in a society that we care about things when there's a crisis. And we need to find a way to make prevention what I would describe as sexy, which is, for schools to see why it's so important to have that in there and just making prevention more accessible for everyone.
Well, here it's just worth mentioning that France just banned the use of digital devices in school pour l'école élémentaire et primaire. So students are not allowed to take smartphone or use tablets in the school in France starting September 2018.
Just to elaborate more on the idea of getting the help of the Ministry of Education, regarding our study, the participants were mainly from grades 10, 11, and 12. So they are secondary school students. And the prevalence rate that we were able to identify was 9.2%. So 9.2% of the children could be classified as having the internet gaming disorder, and 35.7% were at risk of becoming. So those numbers had generalization been warranted here, taking into consideration that there are about 132,000 secondary school students in Lebanon. Imagine that there are a group of about 12,000 children that need help, okay, and about 47,000 that are ready to become addict. So I'm not saying that this, let's say, the research that should be, that we all should base our thinking about it, but there should be more, okay? But yes, it's kind of an alarm, raising the alarm.
But, okay, and we will follow with MCF on this. I promise you. And yeah, I'm answering the lady. Okay, who's next? Philippe, you had a question? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, sorry.
Hi. It's me or?
On today's generation. And we, all of here attending the conference, we have tried the online gaming and we're not addicted. And the children who are addicted to online gaming, of course they have some problem. Don't you think parents should face this problem with them before telling them about the disadvantages of online gaming? Because we cannot, it's a place to run away from their reality. And that's the point that we should fix on it.
Okay, maybe I take 2 or 3 questions and then. Yes.
We actually, we've been raising awareness for a long time now, and through the CNRS Lebanon and through NDU and now through Maïshid Dia Foundation, we are saying that parents, they have a major role here. We just mentioned that they should educate themselves so that they know how to address the issue. It's not about just getting the device from their child and stopping them abruptly from using it. This will raise a big psychological problem and a clash at home. We don't advise you to do this.
Good afternoon.
And with Lara.
Good afternoon. Maybe I will talk a little. Okay, maybe I will talk a little bit in English and in Arabic. I want to explain something. I have a child, age 14. So you are talking about children from 12 and above, but the problem starts, I think, on 12 years old to become more dangerous. Okay, after this, and I think games and all media, Insta or WhatsApp or whatever, start to become a stage in the rules of the life of the adolescents. Regardless of parents' behavior. يعني لو الأهل ملاحقين لأولادهم مش بالضرورة يكونوا هن مقصرين تجاه أولادهم. يعني لو معين ولو اتسترا عم بيوصل لوقت إنه الأولاد اللي من هيدا العمر عم بيكونوا متعلقين بكل شيء اسمه وسائل اتصال وميديا، وهذا الشيء عم بيشكل عليهم خطر بحجة انه في شيء عم بيعملوه ريسيرش للمدرسه لازم يضلوا في بايديهم ديفايس وغير اشياء. اوكي، هذا الشيء بتصور عم بيعانوا منه كثير ناس، وهالشيء كمان عم بيخليهم انه بين الجيم ادكتيف وبين غير اشياء يوصلوا يمكن لمطارح عم بيأذوا حالهم او حتى
No. Okay. I will just sum it up quickly for them.
لأنه بقدر أعبر أكثر بالعربي. بعمر اللي فوق يعني من 12 سنة بفتكر وال 14 عم برجع بعيد الفكرة بسرعة، عم بيكون في خطر أكثر لأن الأولاد عم بيكونوا متمكنين من هيدا. يعني أولادي أنا ما كانوا قبل أدكتيف، وعندي هالعمر اللي 14 سنة صارت كتير أدكتيف وعم تتعامل بطريقة إنه أول شيء ببروجيات مدرسة وإتسترا، بعدين عم بيصير في خطر على الموضوع. يعني بين الاتصال بين الأولاد بين بعضهم بالمدارس على أساس درس، بيرجعوا بيفوتوا بيعملوا ريسيرش، بيفوتوا على جيم، بيشتركوا سوا عم بتصير القصة عم بتطول وتطول وتاخد من وقتهم ومن صحتهم على حساب أكلهم على حساب أدويتهم على حساب كل شيء، وعم بيتراجعوا يعني وقت اللي بيكونوا موين 18 أو 17 عم بيصيروا ما بعرف قديش، يمكن لل11 للأقل أو أقل، أو ما عم بيدرسوا أو ما عم بيروحوا على المدرسة. هيدا الشيء بفتكر مش لوحدي عم بعاني منه، في كتير ناس يعني عم بحكي باسمهم. وبقترح دكتور نزير ما بعرف شو عندك توصيات او ينشغل على هالموضوع بامرجنسي بالنسبه لوزاره ما بعرف اي وزاره رح تهتم بهذا الموضوع. Okay, thank you. طولت.
I can identify with you. I have a 14 years old son. I'm sure now, my husband told me he's playing Fortnite. Like, I'm not home, so I know today all day he's playing Fortnite. And your role as a mother, I know what you're trying to say. You're trying all your best. This is my cause. I work for it with passion, but I cannot stop my kids from playing.
Yes, sure.
There is something to the peer pressure. الضغط تبع كل اللي بالصف عم يلعبوا فورتنايت لنقول at 14 12 13 بالكور كلهم بالمدرسه عم يلعبوا. هيدا هو this is their only conversation. ذات الشيء حضرتك عندك بنت obviously you have a daughter, social media she has to keep up, YouTube, Instagram, she has to watch the latest post or she will be left behind.
Exactly.
There is that peer pressure, social peer pressure.
وإذا بدنا نجي للأهل
and
يعني.
you cannot say no, you cannot have it.
إذا بدنا نجي للأهل بعصر اللي نحن هلا فيه، الأهل عم بيركضوا والأولاد عم بيركضوا والوقت كله عم بيركض يعني وضع الاقتصادي بفتكر كله عم بيضغط على هالاشياء كلها. يعني الاهل ما بقى يمكن عم بيعطوا غير وقت صغير لاولادهم. بعتذر يمكن طولت عليكم، بس بفتكر لازم يمكن ينعمل شيء كثير مهم بهذا الموضوع. Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want me to repeat some?
No, it's okay, it's okay. Philippe, you have something, and then we will have to wrap up.
Just to change the mood, Dr. Shapiro, I think you said we have to let the parents play with their kids. So I've been struggling for the last 4 years to convince my father to use WhatsApp. So good luck with that. So I will try to teach him maybe to play Pokemon Go as a first step. But you know, the problem here is I want to congratulate the NDU professors here and of course Dr. Maishid for raising this topic, because I myself am a teacher, I'm a social media teacher, and I have a whole chapter on security and online games, because you know, for example, one game is the addictive one, the Blue Whale. We didn't talk about it here, but it all has to do with the parents, because we have to monitor the behavior of our children. I think the problem here is we cannot blame the parents because they belong to a different generation. I've been myself giving awareness campaigns in churches in Lebanon, telling people you have to monitor your children, and they say they play games on us, so we don't know what's in their phones, and this is a major problem. Not only online games, but also, applications like, WhatsApp, encrypted messaging, and ISIS managed to recruit people using these stuff. So I think awareness is key in this topic. I don't know if you agree on this. Yes.
I just have a small suggestion. Being a young adult, so I'm 22 now, I have found a solution for that issue. So I am also at risk. We are all at risk to being addicted to social media and to our phones. But my solution is maybe go to the gym, do an activity for 14-year-olds. Maybe they can join the Scout, maybe they can do boxing, anything that could put their mind off and release energy. We should focus on sports and going out more.
Alternative activities.
Maybe you should go with her and have a walk.
Okay.
I don't know, so it's just a suggestion.
Come here, what you would say to parents. We need to wrap up, and with Jordan,
Parenting is a component of it. Kids get the headlines. This conversation involves parents. The majority of gaming addicts that I see are 18 to 25. So actually when they no longer have parent supervision and now they're in college and they have harder classwork, that tends to be where the issue actually begins to manifest. So on one hand, the parenting and being firm, having consistent boundaries is really important. And on the other hand, you have to help them identify why they're playing. So I gamed because it was a temporary escape. It was a social connection. it gave me constant measurable growth, and it gave me a sense of purpose. There's a lot of research now that shows that we actually begin to identify with our online gaming characters and our gaming history. And so it's also an identity. So for parents, if you're trying to help them shift, you have to help them have a wider range of different activities. Gaming can't be the only thing that they're doing, or online technology, computers can't be the only thing that they're doing. They have to have things where they're exercising. They have to have time in nature. You also have to help them structure their time. And I mean their free time and their holidays and their weekends. Because if you are setting restrictions during the week and then the weekend comes and it's like, go for it, well, then it's easy for them to binge. When I was playing hockey and going to school, gaming, there wasn't a lot of time for me to game excessively. But then in the summers, when I had no structure, no stability, no gaming, no hockey, then it was 16 hours a day. And so just being able to monitor, the binging cycles is also important, and help them shift to different types of games. So we know that more online multiplayer games like World of Warcraft tend to be bigger problems than games that have a start and an end, games where you can pause and they can come for dinner, instead of a game like Fortnite where if they're in the middle of their battle royale that pits them against 99 other players and you're calling them to come for dinner, if they leave that game, they lose. And that might hurt their ranking, or that might hurt not just for them to lose, but all of their friends at school to lose as well, because they were playing together. And so now you understand why it's World War III when you ask them to come for dinner. So even being a bit more proactive to understand what games they're playing, how these games work functionally, and maybe how long they take, so that you can have the foresight of dinner's going to be in an hour. Okay, play one more game of Fortnite that's going to be 20 or 30 minutes, and then stop, come for dinner, and you can play another game afterwards. Just being able to navigate that a bit better will really help a lot. And there are parents all over the world coming together to support each other. So either on GameQuillers.com or on Facebook, you can find support groups now where parents are coming together to share strategies. So I definitely encourage you to do that as well. You're not alone.
Jordan, please, one last word about that healthy balance that we're looking for, the healthy balance for parents.
I mean, there's two things come to mind. I think one, just remember that there's the single-minded focus of a 14-year-old is pretty normal, and it existed long before there were games, right? They were single-minded and they had peer pressure about things. I didn't even have games, and we only talked about the things that involved peer pressure when I was 14 also. So this is a different world, yes, and I agree with you, sir, that it's a very scary world, because I think the tech industry in some ways has convinced everyone that we have no agency, that we're not able to make that decision, that it's in charge. And I think we really need to learn about it as adults, and this won't be comforting to you, but I think it needs to start really early, because I think we need to start teaching our kids those lessons, right? My kids have been gaming for a very long time. This is one place where I'll disagree with Cam. They don't get the, hey, wait until the game is over to come to dinner. I don't care if you die in Fortnite. That's not real death, right? But they learned that when they were 4 and 5 and 6. So now that they're 14, it's not World War II, because those boundaries have been set. If I could imagine if I hadn't set them, it would be World War II right now. Certainly. So that's I think we really need to think about how we're going to integrate this. It's not going anywhere. So we need to think about how to integrate it responsibly into our family rituals, into our family lives, and how to do it in ways where we don't get these unhealthy relationships.
Thank you, Jordan. I hope this panel will give us all time to reflect on how we can save our children and their mind in this digital world. Thank you so much.